We're live.
This is the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District Board meeting. It is Wednesday, August 28th, 2024 at 3:02 p.m. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Barnes.
Here.
DeBevick. Here. Delgado.
Here.
Fasella.
Present.
Friedman. Nudo.
Here.
Ula. Quorum present.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as distributed?
So moved.
It's been moved by Phil. Second? Paul DeBevick. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board on any topic? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the next agenda item. Is there a motion to approve the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District Board meeting minutes from July 31st, 2024 open session?
I would move to approve the minutes as distributed in our board packet.
Okay, it's been moved. Second?
Second.
And seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to communications. Are there any communications from the board? Okay, and do you have anything, Amy? Okay, no communications. Next is the Managing Director's report. Amy?
Good afternoon. Our Managing Director, Carl Gannat, is at the Zero Emission Bus Conference with a couple of our coworkers. So I get to sit in as the Deputy Managing Director. My name is Amy Snyder, and I will be giving the report today. So, as you know, we are reporting on the month of July, and July is the first month of our fiscal year. So we are just reporting on one total month of the year, so just keep that in mind as we advance through the slides. So ridership, starting off there, is continuing its upward trend. So in July, we had an increase in ridership. We had 358,985 rides, which, as you can see, is a 15% increase. And like I said, first month of the fiscal year, so same data there for year to date. We continue to show you this chart, which helps give you perspective of our pre-pandemic ridership. So there's 2019, and as you can see, we continue to stair-step our recovery with July 2024 ridership continuing that trend. Moving on to operating revenue. Our July 2024 operating revenue was 5.8% above July of the previous July, and our year-to-date operating revenue is the same with that 5.8%. Looking at our operating expenses are up 5.4% from the previous fiscal year, and that's mostly a result of our increase in wages. Moving on to our operating revenue, budget versus actual, we are down 69,000, and you know we will of course continue to monitor this, but a budget is a plan, and perhaps our budgeted revenue was a bit too aggressive for this month. A lot of the revenue that the district collects is accrued annually, and we weight it by revenue hours. And so it's not a perfect formula, but staff will continue to monitor this, of course, moving forward. Our operating expenses, budget versus actual, are under budget by $535,356. And that concludes our statistics. I do want to note two things. So on page 6 of your packet, we have a lot to celebrate, but mostly what we've been talking about and what we've gotten coverage in the media is our return to full service. So you all know that starting in December of 2023, with a couple months since then, we've slowly been returning to our pre-pandemic service levels. And so last Friday, August 23rd, was the final installation of 100 more hours of service when the U of I came back, and we started our 10-minute frequencies back for weekday daytime, weekday evening, and into our late night. So the community is super excited about that. I spoke to a Daily Illini reporter today who told me what a difference he has seen in the first few days of riding. Just that the capacities are getting spread out and it's just a more enjoyable experience. So we're really excited about that. And I also just want to celebrate our vacancy rate that continues to be manageable for staff due to the diligent work of our Human Resources Department and our Safety and Training Department and all the staff that supports that. We had 20 more operators in the month of July 2024 than we did in July 2023. So that's a single data point. There's a ton of work that goes into that for us to keep that up and maintain that low vacancy rate. So just want to celebrate that. And I will take any questions in the packet through page 37.
Questions for Amy?
I don't have a question exactly, but a suggestion. On pages 4 and 5, my eye tells me that there's some kind of difference between the first two bars in color, but I can't really tell you what color those things are. Could you perhaps tune to some slightly different colors?
Which ones are you looking at?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
These two.
These two.
So the two blues. The two blues are too close.
Yeah, absolutely. We can add more contrast to those charts. So at the very least, they're not the same color. We can do that for sure.
Other than that, I have no quarrel with the report.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Amy. Next, we'll move on to action items. We'll be considering the approval of real estate consulting service contract. And who will be addressing that?
I will give an intro, and Victoria Carrington is our procurement specialist, and she will be my phone-a-friend. All right, well, we'll jump in. As you may or may not recall, in December of 2022, there was a discussion at our board meeting, and the board requested staff go out for bid for contract services for real estate support. This was to help inform future real estate transactions, future development projects. And so Victoria and Ashley put together a request for proposals that then went out to a long list of bidders. The district received 2 proposals that were then reviewed by an evaluation committee. And the evaluation committee advances Volkert for your approval. As detailed in the documentation that you've received, there is no specified work. There's no minimum guarantee. It's that when the district has needs for Volkert's professional services, we will reach out and seek their support. We, of course, in our RFP and in our evaluation process, we were looking for bidders to demonstrate a knowledge and a familiarity with how to support government. when acquiring real property, and to support the district in its compliance with the Uniform Act, which, for those who like an acronym, that stands for the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act, which of course the district must comply with, as well as many of our fellows, like the City of Urbana and the City of Champaign. So we would request that the board approve the contract with Volkert, and we can answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
Well, I'll jump in, and it's easy to
Paul,
find,
could you just really quickly pull the mic down? Perfect, thank you.
it's easy to find information about both of these firms on the internet, and I, again, trying to earn my keep, spent a little time looking at them, and it's safe to say that these are enormous national companies with projects of incredible extent. Major airline terminals, for example. And the other thing I noted in the discussion on page 38 at the moment, and maybe for the foreseeable future, there seems to be two examples of real property acquisition, namely the terminal extension and the Urbana downtown project. So maybe you could question, how come no local company bid for this? And I'm sure, and my colleagues here have much more experience in this matter than I do, I'm sure that there are local companies that probably have the expertise and, dare I say, are maybe more familiar with local issues, what's available, prices and things like that. So, you know, I know I'm supposed to keep in my lane, just like the buses, but I thought I might ask this.
It's a great question, Paul, and you weren't on the board when we started to have these discussions or for any of the other property acquisitions that the district has. So I think what's important to note about the district's process when we purchase property is that it's very straightforward, and it's not about it being competitive or giving any sort of advantage. And so the district has to perform a NEPA analysis, which is a very slow process, and we can't entertain conversations about purchasing property until that's complete. And so as far as a broker helping the district to get in on the right time, that's not part of what we do. So specifically to what you talked about, you know, most of the district's purchases, which in the district's 55-year history, we've acquired 8 properties. But with Illinois Terminal, the west lot will be a purchase from the City of Champaign. They also have to comply with the Uniform Act. And so you get appraisals, and the district has to go with the appraisal price. And so we likely will not bring in Volkert for the purchase of the west lot. And the money that goes towards the purchase of that will go back to the project. Similarly, with the downtown Urbana transfer station, that would be working with the City of Urbana, and again, the money would go back into the project and has to comply with those rules. Victoria did reach out to all of the bidders who did not propose. Let me rephrase that. All of the people that we invited to bid who did not bid, because we only had 2 proposals, and asked them why. And we didn't get very many responses, but for the most part, what we heard was that the scope of the services was too much for them to respond to. Even though we made it clear in the RFP that in order to bid, in order to respond, you didn't have to be able to do all the services listed. Victoria, do you want to add anything to that? Right side.
So we did reach out to the firms what our practice is that we typically put out an advertisement in the local newspaper, as well as we formulate a distribution list. The distribution list for this procurement contained 44 emails that our solicitation was issued for advertisement to. 31 of those 44 were real estate firms, and 25 out of those 31 were local firms. So only 6 of them were non-local real estate firms. 14 of the 44 had requested the full document be provided to them. And out of those 14, only 10 of them were real estate firms. One of them was an architect and engineering firm, and 3 of them were bid websites that acquire the documents to share with other contractors outside of our local, where our local newspaper is regularly seen. 9 of those 14 we requested no bid notifications from because they were real estate firms, and 7 of the 9 responded. If that provides any context and answer to your question about local.
Other questions? Alan?
Yeah, I spoke with Carl before the RFP was put out, or no, after it was put out, and he asked me, based on the scope, would there be any other entities that would be interested in it? And that's, I think you did the right thing in getting it out to more than just realtor firms, because it would require a much wider scope. Amy, you've brought it up twice now that when this firm would be involved in the purchase, but the discussion, the purchase of properties, the discussion that we had and had a vote on and passed was beyond just a purchase. It was to analyze the deals with the expertise of our attorney and having a commercial realtor that would be able to provide expertise in how to, the kinds of terms and clauses of a lease that would be appropriate along with the attorney, and also, current market rates, those kinds of things for leases. And so I want to make sure that that's what we're intending on doing, number one. That's my first question.
Yes, and that's where we anticipate using Volkert's expertise, that once the Illinois terminal expansion reaches the place of condo minimization, where we are making those lease agreements and making sure that the return on investment is advantageous and competitive, absolutely, that's when we foresee using that.
Thank you. The second question comes up on the basis of the article in today's paper. I have to tell you, as a board member, I was extremely disappointed that we knew nothing about the content of what was in that article. And as a board, we should, either in closed session, because of negotiations, be made aware of things that the public finds out after we find out about it. And it just stunned me that there would be so much detail about what is happening with this project. And I can't say enough that this company should be involved in it. You said earlier that they would not be involved in this matter. My God, we're in the middle of it, and we should have them involved in this. And so it's a twofold position I'm taking. We should have known about this. If it would have been in generalities, I would have said, okay, I understand, he's got to answer the question. This was specific, and we knew nothing about it.
I hear your concern, and I am familiar with the article. I do think that it's important to note that this was a developer effort, that this is a decision on behalf of Royce and Brinkmeyer and Dennis Whitty of Omni Corporation, that they are the owners of the Inman building and the lot south of there, and that they want to garner community feedback. And so for Of course, MTD is a part of the project, and we don't have a development agreement. We've been at the same place that we have been for quite some time, which is looking at the financing. And so I believe that most of the information in that article as relates to MTD's portion of the project, I think that the board was aware of it, but this was an effort on the developer's part to offer an opportunity, open up their doors, and they're doing tours of the Inman building, and so this is their effort for the most part.
Yeah, I was more referring to the content with our project, and I think there were things in there that I didn't know about. The third thing is, Phil and I are on the committee for this, that was a part of this RFP, and I think one of us should have been on the committee to evaluate the two entities, or however many we had, because again, one, we're part of the committee, and two, for that particular area of expertise, and secondly, we're involved in real estate, and we could have contributed to the content of decision making.
So we did provide to both of you a copy of the RFP for you to provide feedback on the specific language. And you all have seen the proposals. But it is a conflict of interest since we turn to you to actually award the contract. And so members of the board can't serve on the evaluation committee. Is that correct, Victoria?
Yes, that would be a conflict of interest and against our procurement policies.
Any other
I
questions?
can, if Alex, our corporate counsel, would like to weigh in any further on that.
I honestly don't think I need to, so.
Other questions or comments?
I'll jump in and I'll let Al jump back in. As many of you know, I don't think anybody is more excited about what the potential for this terminal expansion, this has the fundamental ability, if we pull this off right, I think to change the nature of our mass transit district. I think, the vision that I'm seeing is that you could live without a car. Some people don't know, but most of our routes kind of have an end at the Illinois terminal. So kind of whatever route you live on, this could be a destination on the route. And the fun thing is that we have a vision for some commercial spaces, some amenities, so to speak. Mr. Friedman could jump in on this, but when the electric Illinois terminal existed, there was a push to create amenities on the route to drive ridership. So you'd build an amusement park or something to go to, and then you could take the train and go somewhere. And I think we have the same potential to do that here downtown. So again, if we can get Royce Whitty on this thing or somebody else who's a developer and get this done correctly, it has the potential, I think, to drastically increase our ridership and, more importantly, to be a huge convenience to people who either cannot drive for either medical reasons or financial reasons, or even just personally choose to live without a car. Depending on the types of things we develop at this terminal expansion, we could really make it a lot easier to live in Champaign-Urbana, and especially downtown, without a vehicle. You got the potential for something like the Inman to be a destination for, maybe you're a young person who's confined to a wheelchair and you can't easily drive. Well, my goodness, if you have access to transit and access to maybe some shopping and everything is right there next to your apartment, that could really be a really freeing thing compared to the idea of, hey, I live in, the edge of town. I have to either take West Connect or a transfer to get to the grocery store. And pretty soon something very simple like, getting a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk could become a 5-hour excursion. That could be really hard on you. This has the potential to really be a huge thing for a lot of people in our community and a lot of people that might move to our community just because of this thing that we have the potential to create. So anyway, I'm shifting off topic here, but I guess I want to see this go well. We've been sitting on the money for a while, and I was really hoping that this RFP could bring in a consultant that would be able to work with the parties, even at this stage. It's not so much about land acquisition from the city of Champaign, but we need to explain our vision, and it's not my place as a board member to corner, city council members, but the planning department and the city council in Champaign, they've got to see the vision too and realize what the potential that this thing has, and that they've got to get behind it however they need to. And we've got to get buy-in from them, and then we've got to get tenants, businesses to buy in and realize, hey, I know you don't normally do a so many square foot floor, but, give us 10 minutes of your time and really sell this thing. And Carl's an amazing guy, but I don't know that he has the connections or the background to do that. And I guess my concern about the two respondents to this RFP is I feel like these guys would be amazing if we were going to do a trolley system. We needed to acquire right-of-way and do surveying and infrastructure. It seems like they're really strong on that. But I feel like we need somebody that knows everybody on city council. We need somebody who knows, the people that own the property. We need somebody who knows guys at, real estate departments for different national chains of, not to get into the weeds, but some kind of tenants that could go in this building. And I'm not sure this is exactly what we need. I don't know, and maybe I didn't do a good job of elaborating that when we were at the RFP stage, and that's completely on me. But anyway, that's sort of my take on it, is I think we get kind of one shot at this with this federal money, and I really, really, really want this to be not just a bigger bus terminal, but something that could really, be the explanation of why are we spending local tax dollars on this? Well, we're doing it because it's not just a place for buses. This is an amenity that benefits everybody in the community and is going to drive a ton of private development if we do it right, which will pay for itself many times over.
Just to address a few points that feel most pertinent to this conversation here today, I'll start by saying I love your excitement, Phil, and I think what you started with is exactly what staff are fighting for. So I think we're on the same page there. Volkert has experience with right-of-way. Many of their staff who are listed in their proposal who would work with MTD have IDOT, they are official IDOT negotiators, so they do bring local experience. They have worked with other transit districts who are working on multimodal facilities. It's not extensive, but they have transit agency experience as well as lots of municipal experience, so I think that that'll be helpful. You talked about the city of Champaign and council members being involved. We're certainly not at that place, but staff have been working closely with the planning department. We've done charrettes with them. We've also been working with the city's finance team and have had conversations with lots of city staff, and we believe that they are excited and committed to the project as well.
Other questions or comments, please?
Dick?
Well, let me, if I may, go back to the statement you made very early in your response to what I was saying, that you probably wouldn't put Volkert in this project at all.
Sorry, not at the stage of the purchase of the west lot, but when the project advances and we're looking at what that mixed-use development's going to be, what those respective agreements are, then to Alan's point, that's when we would look at making sure that those agreements are advantageous to all parties, especially MTD, and so we would bring in their expertise. I also just got a reminder that what is mentioned in the News Gazette article is that the district is going to be pursuing a TIFIA or supporting a TIFIA loan, which I know we've discussed with the board, and Carl has mentioned that he's been working with the Better Business Bureau, the Build America Bureau, excuse me, which is responsible for TIFIA loans, and so The district is going to get a TIFIA consultant, a consultant who can support us applying for that TIFIA loan, and we will bring that RFP and the resulting contract for approval to you all when we're ready to bring that TIFIA consultant on board. So we'll have some more engagement on the project there with you all.
George, did you have something? Phil?
I think if we have a good consultant, the time to bring him or her or the group in is as early as possible, because if we have an idea that, hey, there's going to be an opportunity for a mixed-use development, we need to start reaching out to potential tenants now. And to some degree, you wouldn't want to do it just at the point of conduization, because somebody might say, well, hey, hard stop, we need, you know, a penetration for a vent hood in all of our locations because we have a grill, or we're going to need so many square feet, or we're going to need a loading dock, or this isn't going to work. And if we don't have those conversations fairly early on as we're planning out the space, I think we could be missing some options. And also, I mean, it takes a long time to find the right players. So I think if we've got a good consultant, you know, we need to get them on board early. It's not just, well, we need help negotiating the lease. It's like, hey, we need help finding the tenant. We need help envisioning what could go here. You know, if you've got somebody that's going to conferences and meeting with, you know, real estate departments from 100 different national companies, you might go to them and say, hey, we're going to be building a ground floor space. And they say, man, this is just the right thing for ABC Corporation. And, you know, it'll work good, but we're going to need to have a little bit less square footage here and maybe a second spot here. And, you know, they might know that already. So I think you want to do something, at least have the conversation with their people earlier, rather than, hey, we found somebody that approached us and we're ready to sign a lease with them and we already built the space. Do your magic, you know.
Alan?
Yeah, Phil's saying it so well. I just can't emphasize that the mix, highest and best use of a building or of a project takes a lot of time and effort, and it's not on the staff's back to try and find that person, or to have the first person that approaches us, we accept it as what we should be doing. There's a whole world out there. I know there's conventions that are every month in every part of the country and in the world that hosts these different entities, and they want to hear the pitch. And so, you know, Phil brought up a great point of having a destination use or a reason for people to get on a bus and use it for transportation. And I think that's the whole reason why we have MTD as a social safety net, and, you know, provide transportation for people who don't have that ability to get in a car and go to the highest and best use place. So, you know, I'm excited about this. I wanted to see it go when we had the hockey rink. I think this would have really turned the downtown around. But if we're going to hire this company, let's use them. Sometimes I kind of feel like this is a pat on the head, and, you know, we did it, and so, you know, we'll involve them when we're done and we've got everything dealt. And sort of like what we did with the Alex Ruggieri thing. It was handed to him. It was already done. He got paid a fee for saying, yeah, you did it. And I don't think that's what we want out of this firm. I think we need to have them actively involved with the highest and best use of the square footage that we're offering to the public.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the real estate consulting services contract?
So moved.
Moved by Alan Nudo. Is there a second?
Second.
Second comes from George Friedman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, George, I believe, had a comment that he wanted to bring up on another matter. So, George?
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, I've been doing something terrible. I've been looking at the bylaws. I've a long record on campus of working on similar kinds of documents. And I have two problems with our current bylaws. One is fairly minor. In, let me get it. Article 9, Section 3, Rules of Procedure. This is a place where Robert's Rules of Order suggests a particular way to phrase it that I think works better than the vague language we have in Section 3 right now. I'd like to see us fix that. Second is something a bit more fundamental. The Open Meetings Act specifies that there are certain situations where we can invite remote participation of members of the board under certain very limited conditions: personal illness or disability, employment of the business of the district, a family or other emergency, unexpected child care obligations, or the specific limit listings in the current OMA. The basic framework is that if a person falls under one of those situations and cannot attend the meeting, there still has to be a physical presence of a quorum in the meeting room. And if those people agree to remote participation by the member affected, then they can be included in the discussion and vote, and their vote can be counted and all that. I've got here an excerpt from the standing rules of the Urbana-Champaign Senate that has what I think could be model language for what I think we ought to put into our bylaws. In the absence of any provision in the bylaws, then remote participation is just out, not available.
So I know that staff is available or is aware of your interest in getting these updated. I just want to be careful that this isn't on the agenda today, and so we can't have discussion on this. So I just wanted to jump in and make that point.
Yeah, we would just put it on the agenda for a later meeting, but we just want to get the information out there. Anything further, George?
Yeah, I just wanted to get the idea into your heads so that it can be thought about and discuss and prepare texts at a later time.
Okay, the staff will note that we'll work on that in coming weeks. Anything else?
Not from me.
Thank you. Okay, the next regular Board of Trustees meeting will be on Wednesday, September 25th, 2024 at 3 p.m. at Illinois Terminal here at 45 East University in Champaign. Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
It's been moved. A second? Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.